this wonderful bread. It is traditionally a German bread for Easter, but we're having it for Oktoberfest. And another trick that I have, I put my recipes in sleeves, and then they stay nice, and if I spill something, and they're still good. And it's kind of cool. And the first thing we need is we need to put 4 cups of flour in here. And you probably already know this because you're experienced cooks, but you never pack the flour when you put it in a measuring cup. And that just doesn't work very well. Normally I'm spoiled. I have a big tub that holds 5 pounds of flour, and I do it over that, and I just scrape it off back, and this is so well. This is another handy tool that I use for many things. It's really good for leveling this off. So we have now the next thing we need to add is, it calls for rapid rise yeast. And here this 1 packet of this is the right measurement. And 1/4 of a cup of sugar. And let's see what else. Flour, sugar, granulated salt, okay, and lemon peel. And it's a teaspoon of salt. You can use kosher salt, I didn't, but you can. And then here's the lemon peel. And it is the peel of 1 lemon. And I just kind of eyeball it, I kind of know how much that is. Depends on the size of the lemon, of course. And that is all that goes into this. And just gonna stir this. I like to stir it together so it starts out. Now the milk, and the thing about the milk, I have to tell you, it cannot be too cold because if it cannot be too hot or it'll kill the yeast. You know, yeast is a living organism. And I'm just going to have to hope this is right because I don't have I'm afraid to use the microwave here. I might get it too hot. But I think it's not ice cold, so I think it'll work just fine. So that is, we're going to. Whenever I cook, I put parchment down. It's easier to clean up. And just kind of beat it with a hand beater. Just get it mixed together. Hey, you can smell it.
Bread?
What?
Do you have a timer on the bread?
No, I'm watching my watch.
Oh,
It's supposed to be 25 minutes.
It's smelling very good.
Yes. And so you just start this and then you just pour this in. And then you have the room temperature butter. 6 tablespoons of butter. Add that in.
Is that just 1 stick or more? I think you said
Put the hook in.
it is a nice one. I sold one. It smells so good.
And it does this for 10 minutes. That's the messy one. And you can knead this, if you want to exercise for 10 minutes, you can knead this by hand. And I did 1 with the machine and 1 by hand. This is much easier. I got very bored. I had to call somebody and talk to them while I was doing it. I was so bored. And something about proofing. I found the perfect way to proof. It wasn't my own idea, but I'm glad I found it. It's so simple. 15 minutes before you're going to proof, turn your oven light on. And that oven light in the oven is the perfect proofing temperature. And that's how I just put it in there. It's so easy and it just works. Just put it covered in there and it works perfectly. And you know, I mentioned about not packing the flour. You don't want to do that. And do not substitute flours for a particular recipe unless you experiment with. I wouldn't mix like oat flour with almond flour because yeast breads are picky. Quick breads, you can just about mix anything together and it's just fine. But be careful about mixing. I've made a lot of mistakes, so I know that. Always use unsalted butter unless it is otherwise indicated. There's usually enough salt in all the operations with baking that you don't need that extra salt. Cool this at least 15 minutes before cutting. And here's some tricks too. If you forget to bring the butter to room temperature, 2 different things you can do. You can put it in the microwave for 10 seconds and check it. And sometimes another 10 seconds is all it needs to make it perfect. The other thing you could do is to take a grater, a cheese grater, and grate the butter into it. And by the time it gets all grated, it'll be at room temperature. That saves a lot of time too. Oh, and how many of you started to make something and then you left out an ingredient? Here's the way to avoid that, okay? When you take the recipe and you get everything out at once, just like I did here for this demonstration, and as you measure it, you put it away. And then you won't leave anything out. And I left sugar out one time. I left vanilla out. And by the way, this doesn't have any vanilla, which is really nice. And then the other thing is for liquids, please use a liquid measure and not a dry measure. There is a little bit of difference. And if it says, if it's liquid, use the liquid measure. Just have fun with it. Oh yeah, it's done now. And see, you want it real sticky. That means it's I have millions of these. I use them. And see, it's just and you don't put any oil in the pan in the bowl. Just plop it in there.
Desperately trying to think of ways.
I think it's a little bit more moist than kolache batter. It seems to be to me. This has to proof for an hour. So at home I proved it in the oven here. It doubled in size like it's supposed to. Thank you, God. And I have this little mat. I put it on. And what you have to do, and this is a challenge, because like I said, it was something I've never done before, but it turned out just fine. And the first thing we do is we have to put it down and flatten it out. And this is just so nice to work with because it's the way it's supposed to be. And then you can either use raisins, or I'm using craisins because I'm not too crazy about raisins, so I'm using craisins. And you spread them out all in this, and then what you do is you knead it so that those get mixed in with the whole idea is to get them approximately the same size. So I'm trying to look at it. I know the middle's fatter, so I think that's about right. And we have 3 pieces. And then I'm gonna put a little more flour here. And then you're supposed to roll it into remember when we used to make snakes as kids? And it's supposed to be 16 inches long, and guess what? This mat is 16 inches long. Oh, when I discovered that. And you just kind of pull it and roll it. And then when it's the right length, then I set it aside and get another one. Not much flour, you sure don't want much. This is really fun.
How long did the dough rise, Dorothy?
Oh, the first proof is an hour. And this one's 20 minutes. That's why I need to get this proofing while I mix up the other one. And then because I will have one that you can taste here, but the other two will probably be ready and in the den later. You know, it's yeast bread. It just, everything's a little bit different than quick bread. But I sure had fun doing this. And then when it gets kind of the right length, just spread it out like this, and you pinch this end together. Like that. You just braid it. And you kind of tuck those, if those craisins are peeking out, you kind of tuck them in like that. And now this is ready for the, and then you do an egg wash. You just take an egg yolk,
Be sure and watch, John.
and beat it up, and you add just a tiny bit of milk. About a tablespoon of milk. And if you're going to do this kind of, you want to have all different sizes of these. They're absolutely invaluable. I have about 4 different sizes, and I've got the duplicates of some. And then you brush the egg wash on. Okay. Give it a nice bath. That's going to keep. We're going to put almonds on the top. And then one more thing, and this is something which I have always wanted to work with and never have, and it's pearl sugar. Pearl sugar comes from Sweden, and they look like little pearls.
Where did you find it?
And I was so worried about finding it. And I found out that I could order it from King Arthur Flour, and it was $7.95, and the shipping was $8.95. Now that just doesn't ring. So guess what? Central Market had it right here for $2.99. Oh,
I tell you, some
Shop
get
local.
it all.
yes. Oh, it tastes. And then I just put it on this.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten it there yet. There we go.
That's pretty.
And it is ready now for a 20-minute in the oven.
So altogether, baked how long, this loaf?
25 minutes.
The oven's dinging.
What?
The oven ding.
It's not ready.
Loaf is yeast and all that.
I put it, you probably know this if you're baking something, you don't want it to get too brown. You put a cap on it. Yeah, I got a set of 3 of these at Costco years ago, and this is, it's like if you want to put, when I make scones or muffins, I just put this on and just put it right in the oven. And the also thing I learned is to be careful that you don't cut it too soon. And that's why because it needs to cool a bit, otherwise it